All right, let's get into it. And trust me, you're not going to believe what happened. I'm still trying to process all of it. If you've ever felt like you were the family's resident ATM, or the one person everyone leans on until they don't need you anymore, then you know this feeling. This whole thing started, like all major family dramas, with a Christmas card. Not just any Christmas card, though this one was different. It came in a thick, cream-colored envelope, the kind my mom always insists on buying to look classy. You know the type, the ones with a perfectly embossed snowflake on the front that just screams expensive taste. I got it in the mail, and at first, I felt that familiar, warm holiday fuzziness, I thought. Okay, here we go. The start of the holiday season. The usual family chaos, but with a little bit of joy mixed in. I was ready for it. I was ready for the group texts about who's bringing what side dish, the passive-aggressive comments about my boyfriend from my aunt, and the inevitable moment my dad would ask me to help him out with a project that always ended up being a financial request. I was ready for the predictable dysfunction. But then I opened the card. It wasn't one of those generic photo cards with everyone in matching sweaters. It was a handwritten note from my dad. And that's where the first red flag, so subtle I almost missed it, appeared. He wrote something like, "Dear I, hope you're doing well. Your mother and I are really looking forward to a peaceful Christmas this year. We've been so busy lately, and we think it's time to take a break. So, this year, we're doing a special, adults-only Christmas dinner. Just the parents, no kids, no grandkids. We want to really relax and just enjoy each other's company. We'd love for you to join us." Now, you might be thinking, hey, that sounds kind of nice. A peaceful, adult-only Christmas. And for a split second, I did, too. It seemed mature, respectful of everyone's busy lives. A chance for me to just show up, eat some good food, and not have to deal with my cousin's kids screaming or my brother's never-ending complaints about his job. But something in my gut just felt off. Just adults. The way he wrote it felt pointed, like I was being invited to a secret society, and the kids were being left out. But I was still the only one of my siblings who wasn't married and didn't have kids. So, the rest of my siblings, who all had partners and children, would have been the adults, and their kids would have been the kids. But he was saying just adults, which seemed to imply that the rest of them, with their kids, wouldn't be there either. It was a strange kind of logic, but I accepted it on face value. I mean, my dad's a chaotic guy. His logic is often unique. I texted him back. "Sounds good, Dad. I'm in. Thanks for the invite." He replied almost instantly with a thumbs-up emoji. The speed of his reply, and the lack of any follow-up questions, was another tiny tremor. Usually, these things are a whole conversation, a negotiation, a list of demands. But this was simple. Too simple. Now, to understand why this was so weird, you have to understand the dynamic of my family for my entire adult life. I've been the one who was doing well. I got a good job in finance. I bought my own condo. I've managed to save a decent amount. I've always been independent. My siblings, on the other hand, have always had some kind of drama going on, usually financial. My older brother, Mark, is a perpetual entrepreneur whose great ideas always require a startup loan that never gets paid back. My sister, Sarah, has 2 kids and is constantly struggling to make ends meet, which is why my parents are always helping her out. And me, I was the reliable one, the one they called when Mark needed a new laptop for his business, or when Sarah's car broke down right before a school trip. I was the silent, dependable safety net. I remember this one time, just before Thanksgiving, a couple of months before the Christmas card arrived. It was a perfect microcosm of our family dynamic. We were all at my parents' house, the smell of roasted turkey filling the air, a football game blaring in the background. Everything seemed normal. And then, my mom cornered me in the kitchen while I was helping her mash potatoes. Helping, in this case, meant I was the only one in the kitchen actually doing any work. She whispered, her voice low and conspiratorial. "Your brother is in a bit of a jam." I immediately tensed up. "What kind of jam, Mom?" "Oh, it's nothing big," she said, waving a hand dismissively. "Just some credit card debt. You know how he is? He gets these ideas, and he gets so excited, and then she trailed off, her eyes giving me the full guilt trip treatment. He just needs a little help to get back on his feet. We told him he has to start being more responsible, but it's hard when you're a family man. I knew what was coming. This wasn't a request. This was a statement of intent. They'd already decided I was going to be the one to fix it. He needs about $5,000, she said, finally dropping the bomb. Just a loan, of course. He'll pay you back. He promised. I just stared at her. $5,000. That's a lot of money. Money I'd worked hard for, saved for a down payment on a new car. I looked at her. And then I looked out into the living room where my dad was laughing with Mark, slapping him on the back. Mark didn't look like a man in a jam. He looked like a man having a great time, not worried about a thing. "Mom," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "you know he never pays me back." Her face hardened just a little. "That's not fair. We're a family, we help each other. You have the money, he needs it. What's the problem?" And there it was. The classic emotional manipulation, the subtle gaslighting, the "what's the problem" line. As if my very real concerns were just a small, silly obstacle to be brushed aside. The fact that my parents were perfectly capable of helping him but chose not to, because they knew I would, was the part that hurt the most. They were enabling him, and I was the one footing the bill. I sighed. I felt the familiar pang of resentment, but it was quickly swallowed by the even more familiar feeling of obligation. I couldn't be the one to say no. I couldn't be the one to break the peace. So, I just nodded. "Okay, Mom, I'll talk to him." She beamed at me, her smile a little too bright. "That's my girl. We knew we could count on you." That whole Thanksgiving, I felt a knot in my stomach. Mark never brought it up. I had to be the one to send him the money and then initiate a text exchange that went something like, "Hey, sent you the money, hope it helps." And he'd reply, "Thanks, sis. You're a lifesaver. We'll pay you back soon." A promise that I knew, deep down, was a lie. So when the Christmas card arrived, and my dad said just adults, and I said fine, there was a part of me that thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is my chance to step back, to be a little bit selfish, to just have a quiet holiday without being the one who has to solve everyone's problems. Maybe my parents were actually trying to give me a break. They had to have some idea of the emotional and financial toll that Thanksgiving had taken on me. Right, they had to know. Right. I started to get excited. I was going to have my own Christmas, my boyfriend, Dan, and I had just moved into our place, and we hadn't gotten a chance to really decorate for the holidays. So, I started buying decorations, a tiny, fake tree, fairy lights, a little menorah, even though neither of us is Jewish, because I just thought it was pretty. I was actually looking forward to it. I felt this sense of quiet triumph, like I had finally been given a pass from the family dysfunction. I was going to show them that I was a real adult, capable of having a great Christmas without them. It was empowering, in a way. I felt a sense of freedom that I hadn't felt in a long time. But, like I said, there was that vague, nagging feeling, the kind of feeling you get when you're walking through a quiet house at night and you hear a sound that you can't quite place. It's probably nothing. You tell yourself, it's just the house settling, but you still hold your breath, just in case. I started getting these little hints from my mom that didn't quite add up. She'd call me, and I'd ask what she was doing for Christmas, and she'd say, "Oh, just getting things ready for the quiet adult dinner." But then she'd mention something about a big turkey or a new game for the kids, and she'd quickly correct herself. "Oh, no, not for Christmas. That's for something else." Her voice would get a little too high, a little too quick, and she'd change the subject. The little hairs on the back of my neck would stand up, but I'd brush it off. She's just stressed, I'd think. She's trying to get everything organized. I was so desperate to believe the narrative that I had bought into, the narrative of the peaceful, adults-only Christmas. I wanted to believe that they were finally, giving me a break. I wanted to believe that they saw me as an equal, not just a resource. I wanted to believe that the emotional manipulation and the constant financial requests were finally coming to an end. I wanted to believe that they had finally recognized my boundaries. Little did I know, they weren't giving me a break. They were just giving me a break from them. And the reason why would be so much more brutal than I could have ever imagined. It was a lie, a quiet, calculated, and devastating lie. I was walking straight into a trap, and I didn't even know it, but that's a story for another chapter. Looking back on it now, I can see how perfectly orchestrated it all was. The eerie silence, the subtle breadcrumbs. It was all a prelude, a calm before the storm that I was too naive to see coming. I was so convinced that I was finally being given a break from the relentless family demands that I ignored every single warning sign. After that quick text exchange with my dad, a weird sense of peace settled over me. It was like the phone line, which had been buzzing with family drama for years, had suddenly gone dead. No calls from my mom asking for my opinion on what to wear for a holiday party. A clear signal that she was not just preparing for the adults-only dinner. No text from my brother, Mark, with links to expensive electronics he absolutely needed for his next big idea. And most surprisingly, no messages from my sister, Sarah, lamenting her financial struggles or asking for help with a school fundraiser for her kids. It was just quiet. And I wasn't ready for it. My whole life, my identity within the family had been tied to being the one who fixed things, the one who had the resources, the one who was so successful that I could afford to bail everyone else out, the one who was, in my mom's words, so responsible. The sudden lack of that role left a void. I found myself checking my phone multiple times a day, expecting a call, a text, a demand, and nothing. It's crazy to think about, but I actually started to worry. Was everything okay? Had something happened? I tried to call my mom a couple of times. The first time, she picked up, her voice a little too cheerful. "Hey, sweetie, everything okay?" "Yeah, Mom, everything's fine. Just checking in. What are you guys up to?" "Oh, just getting ready for the holidays. So much to do. We're just so excited for our little quiet dinner. It's going to be so nice, just us adults." She sounded like she was reading from a script. The phrase "just us adults" was said with a particular emphasis, almost like she was trying to convince herself more than me. I asked about Sarah and Mark. "Oh, they're fine, just so busy with their own families. You know how it is." "Okay," I said, feeling a little deflated. "Well, just wanted to say hi. I've been decorating our place for Christmas." "Oh, that's nice. Honey, you have a fun little project for yourself." "Fun little project for yourself." The words hung in the air. It was a subtle jab, a tiny little comment that made it sound like my life was a secondary, less important thing. Like their family Christmas was the main event, and mine was just a small distraction I was keeping myself busy with. I brushed it off. I was so used to that kind of subtle dismissal that I didn't even register it as a red flag anymore. I just internalized it. A week later, I tried calling Mark. He didn't pick up. I left a message, something like, "Hey, just checking in. Hope everything's good." He texted me back a few hours later. "All good. Busy with the new business venture. You?" "Doing well. Getting excited for a relaxing Christmas with Dad and Mom." He didn't reply. No thumbs up, no nice, nothing, just a cold, final silence. At this point, my boyfriend, Dan, started to notice my anxiety. We were sitting on the couch, watching a movie, and I kept picking up my phone, staring at the empty screen, and then putting it back down. "Everything okay?" he asked, putting his arm around me. "Yeah, just the family's being weird. They're all so quiet. My dad said they're doing an adults-only Christmas dinner this year, so it'll just be me, him, and Mom." Dan paused for a second. He's an incredibly perceptive guy, and he's seen the family dynamic play out firsthand. He's been the one I've vented to after every passive-aggressive comment and every financial bailout. He knows the history. "That's a little strange, isn't it?" he said, carefully. "I mean, all the kids. Even Sarah's kids. Your dad loves having the grandkids around for Christmas." "I know, right? That's what I thought. But he said he wants a break. You know how he is. He gets overwhelmed sometimes. He wants a quiet holiday." Dan didn't look convinced. "I don't know. Just adults. It's a very specific phrase, and it's coming from your dad." The same dad who guilt-tripped you into paying off Mark's credit card debt. The same dad who has no problem telling you how important family is whenever he needs something from you. I felt myself get defensive. Dan, they're not all bad. They're my family. Maybe this is a sign that they're finally getting it, that they're respecting my need for some space. He squeezed my hand. Maybe, I hope so. But I can't shake the feeling that something else is going on. Just keep your eyes open. Okay, I told myself he was overthinking it, that he didn't understand the complexities of my family. I was so invested in this new, peaceful narrative that I couldn't accept any other possibility. I was clinging to the idea of a Christmas free from stress and demands, and I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my boyfriend, ruin that for me. I was getting my own Christmas. Damn it. So I threw myself into it. I baked cookies. I bought a tacky, but charming, Christmas sweater. I started making a playlist of holiday music. I even bought a tiny wreath for our front door. My tiny apartment, which had always felt like my private refuge, now felt like a cozy little fortress. I was building my own holiday world, brick by brick, and it felt amazing. I finally felt in control. The days started to blur together. I was so busy with my own holiday preparations that I almost forgot about my family. The silence, which had initially been unsettling, had become a welcome friend. I even started to think, maybe Dan was wrong. Maybe this is exactly what my parents needed, and maybe it's what I needed, too. Then, 2 days before Christmas, the first crack in the facade appeared. My mom posted a picture on her Instagram. It was a beautifully decorated Christmas tree, the same one from my childhood, and on the tree, there was a new ornament, a little wooden train with Mark's family and the year written on it, and another one, a tiny rocking horse, with Sarah's family and the year. The picture was captioned, "Getting ready for our family Christmas Eve dinner, so excited to have everyone here. It's going to be a full house this year." My heart stopped. A full house this year. But what about the adults-only dinner? What about the break? Was this something separate, a pre-Christmas get-together that I hadn't been invited to? The logical part of my brain was spinning, trying to come up with a rational explanation. Maybe my mom just posted an old picture. But the ornament was new. It had the current year on it. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the comments. "Can't wait," wrote my sister-in-law, Mark's wife. "The kids are so excited to see Grandma and Grandpa's tree. Looks amazing. Mom heart," wrote Sarah. "We're already on our way." I sat there, staring at the screen, my blood turning to ice. The pit in my stomach, which had been a low-grade hum of anxiety for weeks, suddenly exploded into a full-blown inferno of dread and confusion. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an old picture. It wasn't a separate get-together. My dad had lied. And the lie wasn't just about an adults-only Christmas. It was about something much, much bigger. It was about the fact that they were all together, and I was the only one who had been told to stay away, the only one who was too busy for their real Christmas, the only one who was given a fun little project for yourself to keep me occupied while they had their full house. I wanted to call them. I wanted to scream, to cry, to demand an explanation. But a different voice in my head, a cold, calm voice, told me to wait. Don't react yet. Don't let them know that you know. Get more information. I opened Instagram again. I scrolled down the comments on my mom's post, searching for anything else. That's when I saw it. A tag. My sister-in-law, Mark's wife, had tagged her sister in the picture. I've met her sister maybe once. Her profile was public, and I was desperate. I clicked on it. Her most recent post was a short video. It was of a beautiful, roaring fireplace, a huge decorated tree in the background. The caption read, "Cozying up with the family. Can't wait for the live stream tomorrow." Live stream. The words hit me like a physical blow. The live stream, the one they were going to do. The one I was going to watch. The one that was going to show me everything I was being excluded from. The one that was going to show me, in excruciating detail, the truth about the quiet Christmas I had been promised. My phone felt like a block of ice in my hand. The quiet, peaceful holiday I had been so excited for had just been shattered into a million pieces. And the worst part, I wasn't even there for the explosion. I was miles away, sitting in my quiet, cozy fortress, completely alone, and all I could do was wait. Wait for the live stream. Wait for the final, devastating reveal. The calm was officially over. The storm was here. If you've ever had a moment where you felt like the ground just dropped out from under you, like your whole reality was suddenly a house of cards collapsing in on itself, then you know exactly how I felt. My phone was still in my hand, but it felt a million miles away. A foreign object holding a truth I didn't want to see. The cozy little fortress I had so carefully built suddenly felt like a prison. Every fairy light, every decoration, every ornament I had put up felt like a mockery. I was so proud of my own Christmas, but it was nothing more than a consolation prize for a game I didn't even know I was playing. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. The words "live stream tomorrow" echoed in my head, a countdown to my own emotional demise. Dan tried to talk to me, to get me to put the phone down, to tell me that it wasn't worth it. "Don't watch it," he pleaded. "They're not worth the pain." And he was right. He was so right. But I couldn't help myself. I felt this intense, desperate need to know, to see it for myself, to confirm the betrayal, to stop living in the hazy, uncertain world of my own denial and face the cold, hard reality of what my family truly thought of me. I needed the proof. I needed to see it, to feel the full weight of it, so I could finally start to heal. So, I waited. I stayed up all night, just staring at the clock, my mind replaying every conversation, every text, every lie, the just adults text from my dad, the fun little project for yourself comment from my mom, Mark's sudden, cold silence. It all made a sickening, crystal clear sense now. They weren't just taking a break. They were taking a break from me. When the clock finally ticked past 7 p.m. the next night, Christmas Eve, I felt my heart pound in my chest like a drum. I went into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and opened Instagram on my laptop. I didn't want to watch this on my phone. I wanted the full, brutal, high-definition experience. I found the page of my sister-in-law's sister, and there it was, a small red circle around her profile picture, with the word "live" blinking ominously. I clicked. The picture was a little shaky at first, but then it settled, and there they were, all of them, my entire family, my mom, looking absolutely radiant in a red dress she'd told me she was saving for something special. My dad, sitting in his favorite armchair, a huge grin on his face, a glass of eggnog in his hand. Mark was there, laughing loudly with his wife, his 2 kids running around in matching Christmas pajamas. Sarah was there too, holding her daughter in her lap, talking to my mom, my cousins, aunts, uncles. They were all there. The full house my mom had mentioned. The camera panned across the living room. It was exactly as I remembered it, but with some new, lavish additions. A huge, roaring fire was going in the fireplace. The Christmas tree was decorated from top to bottom, with all the ornaments I had known my whole life, and the 2 new ones I'd seen in the Instagram post. The room was bustling with people, and the sound of laughter and Christmas music filled the air. My heart was a frozen lump in my chest. Then the camera panned to my dad. He looked directly into the camera and said, "Merry Christmas, everyone. It's so good to have everyone together. My family is finally all in one place. All in one place." The words hit me like a physical blow. He wasn't even subtle about it. He was broadcasting it. The lie wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. They had consciously decided that I was not part of their all. I watched in a kind of detached horror. My mom walked up to the camera and said, "We just wanted a quiet family Christmas this year, a chance to really connect. No distractions." She smiled, a brittle, fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's been a little difficult this year, so it's just nice to have this time to ourselves." Difficult, I thought. Difficult for who? Was it difficult when I was giving Mark $5,000? Was it difficult when I was paying for Sarah's car repairs? Was it difficult when I was the one who had to hear all of their complaints and solve all of their problems? I guess that was the distraction they were talking about. My existence, my needs, my feelings were a distraction from their perfect, curated Christmas. The comments on the live stream started rolling in. "So cozy, Merry Christmas. beautiful family, I wanted to scream at the screen. I wanted to tell everyone watching that this perfect family was a lie, that they're perfect. Quiet Christmas was built on a foundation of betrayal and emotional manipulation, but I couldn't. I could only watch. And then, it got worse. My dad, still with that fake, boisterous smile on his face, started talking, It's been a real struggle to get Mark to get his business off the ground. He had a few setbacks, but we're so proud of him for pushing through it. My dad then clapped Mark on the back. We just had to give him a little encouragement. Just a little push in the right direction. My blood ran cold. A little push. Was that what they were calling the $5,000 I had given him? I had been told it was a loan. I had been told it was a secret between me, Mark, and my mom. But here it was, being talked about in front of the whole family, in front of a live audience, as if it was my dad's little act of generosity. My contribution was being completely erased. My sacrifice was being co-opted and used to make my dad look like a hero. My sister-in-law, Mark's wife, leaned into the camera, a little tipsy from the eggnog. Oh, and we just got the kids the best Christmas present, the new iPads. We couldn't have done it without everyone's help, she giggled. We got them on a Black Friday deal, thanks to Mark's new credit card. New credit card. I knew in that moment that Mark had not paid me back, that the money I had given him was gone, swallowed up by his family's Christmas and his new business ventures. I was not a lifesaver. I was just a walking, talking bank account with a family title attached to it. The camera then showed my sister Sarah, and my mom sat next to her, putting an arm around her. Oh, and Sarah. She is such a wonderful mother. She's been doing so well. She even got a new car to drive the kids around. It's so important that we support her. Family is everything. I wanted to vomit. The car that had broken down and had needed my help. The car repairs I had been asked to pay for, which had turned out to be a down payment on a new car. The little help I had been asked for, which had been presented as a temporary thing, was actually just a way for them to get a new car and use me as a co-signer without my knowledge. I finally understood it all. The adults-only Christmas wasn't about giving me a break. It was about cutting me out. I wasn't being invited to their Christmas because I was the one who they had to lie to, the one they had to manipulate, the one they were taking money from. I was the distraction. My very presence would have been a reminder of their deceit. They couldn't have a quiet family Christmas if I was there, because I would have been the elephant in the room, the living, breathing proof of their lies. The adults-only dinner was a way for them to have their fun without having to face the one person they were hurting. I turned off the live stream. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely close the laptop. The quiet of the room was suddenly deafening. The peace I had so desperately sought was gone, replaced by a cold, searing rage. The betrayal wasn't subtle. It was public. It was broadcast for the world to see. A final, brutal slap in the face. My family didn't want me. They just wanted what I could give them. And they were more than happy to lie to me, to use me, and to exclude me, all while telling the world how much they loved each other. My quiet holiday wasn't a gift. It was a punishment, a final, devastating proof that I was nothing more than a resource, a disposable asset they could use and then discard. I had just watched my own family Christmas from the outside, and I realized in that moment that I had been on the outside all along. I'm not going to lie to you. The immediate aftermath of that live stream was pure, unadulterated rage. I felt a fire in my belly, a burning indignation that I had never experienced before. I had spent my entire life being the peacemaker, the one who took the high road, the one who just let things go to preserve the family harmony. But in that moment, all that was gone. The dam had broken. My first instinct, a primal one, was to call my dad. I wanted to hear his voice, to hear him try to lie to me one more time so I could tell him I knew the truth. I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. It went straight to voicemail. "Hi, this is your dad. Leave me a message. Merry Christmas." The cheerfulness of his voice message, a voice I had just heard on a live stream, was a final, sickening twist of the knife. I hung up. I tried again. Nothing. He was either ignoring my calls or too busy with his full house to pick up. The image of him laughing with Mark, of my mom cooing over Sarah's new car, was burned into my mind. I was a ghost at my own family's party, and they were having the time of their lives. I decided to leave a voicemail. I opened the recorder on my phone and took a deep breath. I wanted to be calm. I wanted to be measured. I wanted to sound like the rational, level-headed person I always was. But the fire was still burning. "Dad," I started, my voice shaking a little, but the words were steady. "I just wanted to call and wish you a Merry Christmas, and to thank you for the invite to your adults-only dinner. I appreciate the thought. You know, I was just checking Instagram, and I saw a beautiful live stream from a family friend. It looked like you all were having a wonderful time. I saw Mark, I saw Sarah, and all the kids. It looked like a full house, which is so lovely. I'm just a little confused. I thought it was just going to be the three of us. Maybe you can give me a call back when you have a free moment. I'd love to know what a break from the family actually means." I hung up, my finger trembling as I pressed the end call button. It was a cold, calculated message, full of sharp edges and unspoken accusations. I wasn't screaming, I wasn't crying, I was just laying out the facts, letting him know that I was on to him. I had finally found my voice, and it was a cold, hard, and undeniable truth. It took him an hour to call me back. An hour that was probably filled with more laughter, more eggnog, more family pictures. The screen lit up with his name, and my heart started pounding again. This was it, the confrontation. "Hey, what's going on?" "Everything okay," he said, his voice still too cheerful, still too loud, as if he was trying to drown out the background noise of his own party. "I'm not sure. Dad, you tell me." There was a beat of silence on the other end. He was processing my tone. He was trying to figure out how much I knew. I could almost hear the wheels turning in his head. "What are you talking about?" "It's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, sweetie." The casual, dismissive tone was the final straw. All the anger I had been holding back erupted. "Don't sweetie me. Dad. You know what I'm talking about. You lied to me. You sent me a card saying you wanted an adults-only Christmas, so you could have a break. You told me it was just going to be me, you, and Mom. And then I went on Instagram and saw a live stream of your full house. Mark's there, Sarah's there, all the grandkids are there. So what was the break from me?" The noise in the background went completely silent. He must have walked into another room. I heard him take a shaky breath. I don't know what you're talking about. We had a small get-together earlier, just a few people. It wasn't a big deal. The gaslighting, the classic, infuriating gaslighting. He was trying to make me feel crazy, to make me doubt what I had seen with my own eyes. But I was done. I wasn't falling for it anymore. "Don't lie to me. Dad." I saw it all. I saw Mark laughing about his new business venture and his new credit card. I saw you taking credit for helping him out. I saw Mom talking about how she helped Sarah get a new car. You didn't give them any money. I did. You used me. You took my money, and then you had a party and excluded me so you wouldn't have to face me. So you could have a perfect little family Christmas without the inconvenient truth of how you actually got there. His voice changed. The cheerfulness was gone, replaced by a cold, angry tone I had only heard a few times in my life. "You're being hysterical. You're overreacting. We're a family. We help each other. It's not about who gave what money. It's about being there for each other. And honestly, if you're going to act like this, maybe it's a good thing you weren't here. You would have ruined Christmas for everyone." "I would have ruined Christmas," I repeated, my voice now a whisper, but it was filled with more power than any scream could have. "I would have ruined Christmas." "How? By being there, by being the one you lied to, by being the one whose money you were spending. You're always so focused on the money. It's not about that. It's about family. It's about love," he said, his voice getting louder now, trying to overpower me with volume and emotion. "You're so selfish. You're so focused on your own life, your own money, your own apartment. We're a family. We're supposed to be there for each other, no matter what." And there it was, the core of all their manipulation, the ultimate weapon they used against me, the family card, the love card, the idea that their needs were more important than mine, And if I didn't meet them, I was being selfish. You're right, Dad. It is about family, and it is about love. But what you did wasn't about love. It was about using me. It was about excluding me because my existence made you uncomfortable. You lied to me. You stole from me. And then you had a party celebrating it. So don't talk to me about family. Don't talk to me about love. Because what you're doing isn't love. It's betrayal. The line was quiet for a long time. I could hear his shallow, angry breathing. He was seething. He wasn't used to me talking to him like this. He wasn't used to me standing up for myself. He was used to me being the quiet, compliant, money-giving daughter. Finally, he spoke again, his voice now a low, menacing growl. I'm going to hang up now. You need to calm down and think about what you just said. You just ruined Christmas for all of us with your attitude. You didn't ruin Christmas, Dad. You just showed me what our family really is. So go back to your party. Go back to your full house. And don't ever call me again asking for a break. Because I'm taking one. A permanent one. And with that, I hung up. My hand was shaking uncontrollably, but the fire in my belly was gone, replaced by a cold, quiet sense of peace. The dam had broken, but it had also washed away years of guilt, manipulation, and resentment. I was no longer the peacemaker. I was no longer the ATM. I was just me. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. The confrontation was over, but the fallout, I knew, was just beginning the moment I hung up the phone. A strange quiet descended upon my apartment. The fire in my gut from the confrontation with my dad was gone, extinguished by the cold reality of what had just happened. For years, I had been an emotional firefighter, running in to put out the blazes of family conflict. Now, for the first time, I had set the fire myself, and I just stood there, watching it burn, and it was terrifying. The silence didn't last long. My phone started to buzz again, a relentless, anxiety-inducing rhythm. It was a call from my mom. I ignored it, then a text from my brother. Mark, what's going on? Dad says you're being crazy. You ruined Christmas. Then a text from my sister. Sarah, why would you do that to Dad? This is so messed up. The accusations, the blame, the complete lack of understanding, it all came flooding in. They weren't seeing the situation from my perspective. They were only seeing the chaos I had created. I wasn't the victim of a betrayal. I was the perpetrator of a ruined holiday. I was the selfish daughter who had chosen to make a scene on Christmas Eve. The narrative was already being rewritten, and I wasn't even there to defend myself. I felt a pang of guilt. Had I gone too far? Should I have just let it go? The old me would have called them back, apologized, and tried to mend the fences, even though I was the one who had been wronged. But the new me, the me that had just watched her family celebrate without her, the me that had finally found her voice, refused to back down. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this was the moment of no return. I had to choose. I could either go back to being the person they wanted me to be, or I could finally start being the person I wanted to be. I went into the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and took a deep, shaky breath. The woman staring back at me looked tired and scared, but there was also a flicker of something new in her eyes. Resolve. I grabbed my phone, opened my contacts, and took a deep breath. I blocked my dad's number. Then I blocked my mom's number. It was a physical act of cutting a cord, and it was the most difficult thing I had ever done. It felt final. It felt like I was severing a part of myself. Then, I blocked Mark. And Sarah, for the first time in my life, I was putting my own emotional well-being ahead of my family's. It was a scary, exhilarating, and completely liberating feeling. The buzzing of my phone stopped. The silence came back, but this time, it felt different. It felt like a fresh, clean slate. I went back to the living room, and Dan was still there, sitting on the couch, watching me with a look of concern in his eyes. What did you do? He asked, his voice soft. I blocked them, I said, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. All of them. I'm done. He walked over to me, put his arms around me, and just held me. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything. I just leaned into him. feeling the warmth of his embrace, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. He didn't ask me to explain. He didn't tell me I was wrong. He just held me, and that was exactly what I needed. The next few days were a blur. Christmas came and went. Dan and I had our own quiet Christmas. Just the two of us. We watched movies, we cooked a nice meal, and we exchanged gifts. It was simple, and it was perfect. But there was a part of me that was still hurting. The betrayal was still fresh, and the pain was still raw. One day, a few days after Christmas, I was sitting on the couch, staring out the window, when Dan came and sat next to me. "You're not okay, are you?" he said. I shook my head. I thought the anger would just fix everything, but it didn't. I'm just sad. I feel like I lost my family. "You didn't lose your family," he said, taking my hand in his. "You lost the family you thought you had, the family that you kept trying to fix. And I know it hurts, but you have to understand that this is a good thing. This is the first step towards getting the family you deserve." His words, so simple and so true, hit me like a ton of bricks. He was right. I hadn't lost my family. I had just finally acknowledged the family I had. A family that was willing to lie to me, use me, and exclude me. A family that saw me as a resource, not a person. The next day, I made an appointment with a therapist. It was something I had been putting off for years, always telling myself that my family's problems were normal, that I just needed to get over it. But after the live stream, after the confrontation, after the blocking, I knew I couldn't get over it on my own. I needed help. My first session with the therapist was a revelation. I talked for an hour straight, pouring out all the years of frustration, guilt, and resentment. I talked about the Thanksgiving loan, the car repairs, the endless requests for money, and the quiet, insidious emotional manipulation. The therapist listened patiently, and when I was done, she looked at me and said, "What you're describing isn't love. It's a transaction, and you're tired of paying the price." The words resonated deep in my soul. A transaction. That's exactly what it was. I was paying for their love, their attention, their approval, and when I stopped paying, they cut me off. The adults-only Christmas wasn't just a betrayal. It was a bill that I had refused to pay, and the consequence was that I was no longer a part of the family. Over the next few weeks, I worked with the therapist to start setting healthy boundaries. I learned to identify the patterns of manipulation, to recognize the gaslighting, and to understand that my worth wasn't tied to how much I could give to my family. I started to rediscover myself, the person I was before I became the family's resident problem solver. I started taking painting classes, something I had always wanted to do but never had the time for. I started going on hikes with Dan, exploring the world outside of my apartment. I started reconnecting with old friends who had been pushed to the side during my endless attempts to manage my family's chaos. I was slowly, painstakingly, building a new life for myself, a life that was mine, and mine alone. The family's silence was a gift. It was a chance for me to heal, to grow, and to finally figure out who I was without their constant demands. It was a period of intense pain and self-doubt, but it was also a period of immense growth and discovery. I was no longer the daughter who was constantly trying to please her parents. I was no longer the sister who was bailing out her siblings. I was just me, and for the first time in my life, I was finally free. I was on the path to reclaiming my life, one step at a time, and I knew that the next Christmas, I wouldn't be watching a live stream of my family. I would be living my own life, on my own terms. The fallout was messy, painful, and heartbreaking, but it was also the first step toward a freedom I never thought I could have. If you've stuck with me this far, thank you. Thank you for listening to my story. Because this isn't just a story about a ruined Christmas. It's a story about finding your voice, about standing up for yourself, and about the long, winding road to reclaiming your own life. And I promise you, the view from the other side is worth every single step. The fallout from that Christmas was brutal, but the quiet that followed was a strange kind of gift. It was a blank canvas. For months, there was no contact. My phone stayed silent, no calls, no texts, no passive-aggressive messages from my mom asking if I was okay. Just nothing. And in that nothingness, I began to find myself. I continued with therapy, and it was a lifeline. I learned to recognize the patterns, the cycle of manipulation and guilt that had defined my relationships with my family for so long. My therapist, a wonderfully kind and no-nonsense woman, gave me the tools to not only understand what had happened but to rebuild my sense of self-worth outside of their approval. We talked about the concept of chosen family versus blood family, and how sometimes the people who truly love and support you are the ones you choose, not the ones you're born into. I started to invest my time, energy, and yes, my money in things that brought me joy. I took a weekend trip to a little cabin by a lake with Dan, something I had always wanted to do but had never made time for, because there was always a family obligation to attend to. I spent an afternoon volunteering at a local animal shelter, something that had always been on my mental to-do list. I started taking long walks in the park, just listening to music and letting my mind wander. These were small things, but they were things that were just for me. They weren't for my family. They weren't to impress anyone. They were just pure, unadulterated moments of joy. My relationship with Dan deepened in ways I never thought possible. He had seen me at my most vulnerable, at my angriest, and at my most heartbroken. He didn't flinch. He just held my hand, listened, and loved me through it. He became my safe harbor, the person who made me feel seen and heard for exactly who I was, not for what I could provide. He was living proof of the chosen family concept. And then Christmas came around again. This time, there was no anxiety, no dread, no passive-aggressive card in the mail, just a quiet sense of anticipation. Dan and I had decided that we were going to create our own traditions. We found a small, local Christmas tree farm, and we spent a snowy afternoon picking out the perfect tree. We decorated it together, laughing and listening to music. It was simple, and it was beautiful. On Christmas Eve, instead of dreading a confrontation or watching a live stream, we went to a cozy Italian restaurant with a few of our closest friends, the kind of friends who had become family, the ones who had listened to me vent, the ones who had celebrated my successes and been there for my failures. We raised a glass to new traditions, to health, and to the strength of the bonds we had chosen to create. It was in that moment, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me, that I had a realization. The adults' only Christmas from the year before wasn't a punishment. It was a wake-up call. It was the universe's way of telling me that the life I was living wasn't the life I was meant to have. My dad screaming, "Let's take a break this Christmas," was a brutal act. But it was also the catalyst for me to take a permanent break from a toxic dynamic. It forced me to see the truth, to stand up for myself, and to finally, build a life that was authentic and joyful. A few months after that second Christmas, I received an email from my mom. It was short and to the point. "We miss you. We hope you're doing well." There was no apology, no mention of what had happened, just a quiet, tentative olive branch. I sat with it for a long time. I showed it to my therapist. We talked about it. And I finally realized that an apology wasn't going to come. And that was okay. The apology wasn't for me to get. It was for them to give. And if they couldn't, then I had to move on without it. I had to find my own forgiveness, not for them, but for myself. I replied to the email. "I miss you too. I'm doing well. I hope you are too." And I left it at that. I opened the door just a crack. Not wide enough to let the chaos back in, but just wide enough to let a little light in. The relationship with my family will never be what it once was. It's now on my terms, with my boundaries. And for the first time, that feels right. I'm not running from them. I'm running toward myself. So if you're watching this and you've ever felt like you were the family's punching bag, the emotional caregiver, or the resident ITM, I want you to know that you are not alone. And I want you to know that it is okay to say no. It is okay to walk away. It is okay to set boundaries. And it is more than okay to choose yourself. Your worth is not defined by what you can do for other people. It's defined by who you are. The journey to reclaiming yourself is long and hard, but it's the most important one you will ever take. Thank you for being here. If you've ever had to deal with something similar, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, please hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.